Hello, fourth form. Today we're going to finish reading chapter 5, The Birthday Bash, from page 63 till the end. Grandma tried to comfort Sam while my mother picked up the book. She gathered the wrapping paper and ribbons and cards together. Fudge didn't even look at any of the birthday cards. Oh well, he can't read, so I guess it doesn't make any difference. Peter, my mother said, let's start the games. Now, quick. I checked the time. I hoped the party was almost over. But no, it was only 1:30. Still an hour to go. I went into my room where I had blown up a lot of balloons. My mother has this party book and it says 3-year-olds like to dance around with balloons. When I got back to the living room, Mom started the record player and I handed each kid a balloon. But they just stood there looking at me. I thought, either the guy who wrote that party book is crazy or I am. Show them how, Peter, my mother said. Take a balloon and demonstrate. I felt like one of the world's great living fools dancing around with a balloon. But it worked. As soon as the kids saw me doing it, they started dancing too. And the more they danced, the more they liked it. Until Jenny's balloon popped. That nearly scared Sam right out of his mind. He started yelling and crying. Fortunately, I had blown up 24 balloons. I was hoping they'd dance around the rest of the afternoon. Fudge got the idea of jumping up and down on the furniture. The others liked that too. So instead of dancing with their balloons, that's what they did. As soon, they were running from room to room, yelling and laughing and having a good time. Then the doorbell rang. It was Mrs. Rudder. She lives in the apartment right under us. She wanted to know what was going on. She said it sounded like her ceiling was about to crash on her any second. My mother explained that Fudge was having a little birthday party, and wouldn't she like to stay for a piece of cake? Sometimes my mother is really clever. So Grandma entertained Mrs. Rudder in the kitchen while Fudge and his buddies jumped up and down on his new bed. It was delivered this morning. Fudge hasn't even slept in it yet. So naturally, when my mother found out what they were up to, she was mad. Stop it right now, she said. New bed, big boy, Fudge told her. Was he proud? You won't have a new big boy bed for long if you don't stop jumping on it, my mother told him. I know. Let's all sit down on the floor and hear a nice story. My mother selected a picture book from Fudge's bookshelf. I heard that one, Jenny said when she saw the cover. All right, my mother told her. Let's hear this one. She held up another book. I heard that one too, Jenny said. I think my mother was starting to lose her patience, but she chose a third book and said, We'll all enjoy this one even if we know it by heart. And if we do know it by heart, well, we can say it together. That's just what Jenny did. And when my mother skipped a page by mistake, Jenny was right there to remind her. If you ask me, my mother felt like biting Jenny by that time. When the story was over, it was 2:00, and Ralph was sound asleep on the floor. My mother told me to put him up on Fudge's new bed while she took the rest of the children back to the living room. I tried and tried, but I couldn't lift Ralph. He must weigh a ton. So I left him sleeping on Fudge's floor and closed the door so he couldn't hear any noise. On my way back to the living room, I wished the others would fall asleep too. Peter, my mother suggested, why don't you show them Dribble? Mom, Dribble's my pet. You don't go around using a pet to entertain a bunch of little kids. Didn't my mother know that? Please, Peter, my mother said. We've still got half an hour left and I don't know what to do with them anymore. Dribble! Fudge hollered. Dribble, dribble, dribble! I guess Sam and Jenny liked the way that sounded because they started to shout, Dribble, 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 even though they didn't know what they were talking about. Oh, all right, I said. I'll show you Dribble, but you've got to promise to be very quiet. You mustn't make a sound. You might scare him, okay? They all said okay. My mother went into the kitchen to chat with Grandma and Mrs. Rudder. I went into my room and came back carrying Dribble in his bowl. I put my finger over my lips to remind Fudge and his friends to be quiet. It worked. At first, nobody said a word. I put Dribble down on the table. Fudge and Sam and Jenny stood over his bowl. Oh, turtle, Jenny said. Yes, Dribble's a turtle. My turtle, I said in a soft voice. See, see, Fudge whispered. They can all see, I told Fudge. Nice turtle, Sam said. I wondered why he wasn't afraid this time. What does Dribble do? Jenny asked. Do? He doesn't do anything special, I said. He's a turtle. He does turtle things. Like what? Jenny asked. What was with this kid anyway? Well, I said, he swims around a little and he sleeps on his rocks and he eats. Does he make? Jenny asked. Make? I said. Make a tinkle? Oh, that. Well, sure, I guess so. Jenny laughed. So did Sam and Fudge. I make tinkle too. Want to see? Jenny asked. No, I said. See, see, Fudge laughed, pointing at Jenny. Jenny had a big smile on her face. Next thing I knew, there was a puddle on the rug. Mom, I hollered, come quick. My mother dashed in from the kitchen. What, Peter? What is it? Just look at what Jenny did, I said. What is that? My mother asked, eyeing the puddle. She made on the floor, I said, and on purpose. Oh, Jenny, my mother cried, you didn't. Did too, Jenny said. That was very naughty, my mother told her. You come with me. She scooped up Jenny and carried her into the bathroom. After that, Mom mopped up the puddle. Finally, the doorbell rang. It was 2:30. The party was over. I could hardly believe it. I was beginning to think it would never end. First, Ralph's mother came. She had to wake him up to get him out of the apartment. I guess even she couldn't carry him. Next, Jenny's mother came. Mom gave her Jenny's wet pants in a bag. That was all she had to do. Jenny's mother was plenty embarrassed. Sam's mother came last, but he didn't want to go home. Now that he was used to us, I guess he liked us. He cried, "More party! More!" Another time, his mother said, dragging him out of our apartment by the arm. My mother flopped down in a chair. Grandma brought her 2 aspirins and a glass of water. "Here, dear," she said. "Maybe these will help." My mother swallowed the pills. She held her head. 3 is kind of young for a party, I told my mother. "Peter Warren Hatcher," my mother began. "Yes?" I asked. "You are absolutely right." I flopped down next to my mother. She put her arm around me. Then we both watched Fudge work his new Jack in the Box. Later, when my father came home, he said, "How did Fudge's party go?" My mother and I looked at each other and we laughed.